Because of his fame and success earned through such timeless literary works as The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, English author and scholar John Ronald Reuel Tokien has become a household name. Likewise, there's much about him that has become common knowledge. He was the definitive Oxford scholar and professor. His first lines of The Hobbit were written on the blank page of a paper he was grading as an Oxford don. He formed a very public friendship with fellow professor C.S. Lewis, the author of the Narnia series. His marriage to Edith Bratt is famously compared to the courtship of Beren and Luthien, of whose names are inscribed on their shared tombstone. Despite these famous aspects of whom many consider the most successful selling dead author, still many facts elude the public, and come as some surprise to even his greatest of followers. I'm Johnny from Mortar and Ivy, and these are 5 things about J.R.R. Tolkien you knew not. Part 1. Number 5. His own personal run-in with Shelob. Giant spiders play several important roles in Tolkien's Middle-earth mythos, including Ungoliant, the evil spirit that destroyed the great trees at the center of the world. Her spawn, Shelob, known for capturing Frodo and battling Sam in the caves of Cirith Ungol, and the spiders of Mirkwood slain by a sting-wielding Bilbo. One possible reason behind all of this 8-legged imagery might be Tolkien's own battle with a giant spider as a boy. As a toddler, Tolkien was bitten by a baboon spider in his family's garden. Upon hearing him shrieking in terror, his nurse discovered what happened and promptly sucked the poison out. Baboon spiders are a highly venomous type of tarantula, and had he not been discovered, Tolkien would likely have faced a premature death. Though, if this incident did inspire his penchant toward monstrous arachnids, it was likely subconsciously, as this connection had been pointed out to him and he otherwise denied it. Said he, "I knew that the way for Frodo, Sam, and Gollum was guarded by a spider, and if that has anything to do with my being stung by a tarantula when a small child, people are welcome to the notion, supposing the improbable that anyone is interested. I can only say that I remember nothing about it. Should not know if I had not been told, and I do not dislike spiders particularly, and have no urge to kill them. I usually rescue those whom I find in the bath." Can you imagine a world without The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and most of modern fantasy literature, all because a spider bit some small child? Number 4. He was a master of languages. Tolkien's mastery of languages, both dead, spoken, and imagined, is no secret, but the extent of which might come as a surprise. He created dozens of his own languages, typically based on pre-existing ancient languages, including 15 dialects of Elvish alone. He worked on his own languages, both spoken and written, from his youth all the way until his death. He even created a form of Dwarvish Sign Language, as their forges were, according to him, often too loud to speak over. Beside those tongues invented by him, he was known to be knowledgeable of more than 20 languages, both modern and archaic, as well as many transitional dialects that bridged the two, many of which he could speak fluently. These languages included Danish, Dutch, French, Finnish, Modern English, Medieval English, Anglo-Saxon, Esperanto, German, Gothic, Greek, Hebrew, Italian, Latin, Lombardic, Old Norse, Norwegian, Russian, Serbian, Spanish, Swedish, Welsh, and Medieval Welsh. He was a linguist first and a writer second. His mastery of language was perhaps the number one reason his world-building literary devices were so convincing. Number 3. He was African. Sort of. Tolkien has been considered by many to be one of the greatest English writers of all time, if not the best or at least best-selling. He stands as the quintessentially stodgy British professor archetype, dressed head to toe in tweed, carrying a cane and smoking a pipe. And he was the stereotypical Englishman by most accounts, as both his parents were native English. To some, it is a surprise Tolkien did not so much set foot on English soil until as a young boy. Rather, he was born in the Orange Free State, an independent Dutch state in what is now South Africa. His family decided to return to Great Britain when he was 3, himself with his mother and younger brother first, and his father to follow later. Unfortunately, his father did not survive to realize this move, and died from rheumatic fever before his planned departure. In England, he lived with his mother until the age of 12, when she too passed, orphaning the young John Ronald and his brother. Number 2. He was quite the thief. Mind you, not the sort of thief to pickpocket pocket watches or rob banks. He wasn't a literal thief, rather a literary thief. Tolkien was a master scholar of ancient literature, and his specialty was epic sagas, so much so he created his own through the epic accounts of Middle-earth. Rather than start from scratch, though, he blended elements of the greatest sagas ever told as he went along, like all of them. Gilgamesh, Beowulf, Norse mythology, the Hebrew Bible, the Odyssey, the Kalevala, King Arthur, as well as his own life experiences. Of everything sacred, nothing was spared. Thorin leading the dwarves to Erebor to reclaim their last throne? Is that not unlike Moses in the plight of the Israelites? And Smaug, the dragon guarding over his hoarded treasure? Is that not identical to Fafnir from the Volsunga saga? Aragorn's sword Narsil, later rechristened Enduril, is synonymous with Excalibur. Odin, the All-Father, travels Midgard as the Grey Wanderer, almost identically to Gandalf. Aragorn, the reluctant lost heir to a fallen kingdom, can be compared to everyone from Jesus Christ to the deposed kings of Wales. Middle-earth's creation mythos is drawn directly from the Finnish Kalevala. Numenor is Atlantis. Valinor is heaven. Morgoth is Satan, the men of Gondor are the old Britons or Romans, etc., so on, so forth. Very nearly every aspect of Tolkien's fiction that makes it so great can be seen, borrowed from one source or another, and somehow made original. He took it, he owned it, he never gave it back. And finally, number 1, he very nearly became a World War II spy. Tolkien's role as lieutenant with the Lancashire Fusiliers during the First World War's Battle of the Somme is well documented, nigh on common household knowledge. His first-hand experience battling Germans in trenches became a resounding inspiration for Mordor, the Ringwraiths, the Battle for the Ring, and many other darker elements of his writing. What few people knew, however, was his potential role as a spy for the British during World War II. Not the James Bond, punching bad guys in the field sort of spy, but rather a code breaker. Tolkien's genius knowledge of languages and linguistics was well known by the British military, who attempted to recruit him to work alongside Alan Turing. Yes, that Alan Turing, as a codebreaker behind the lines. He very nearly could have been involved in developing the Enigma code-breaking machine that helped win the war and jumpstart modern computer sciences. Even though he trained 3 days with the government code and cipher school, he ultimately turned down the job, and we can now only imagine how history would have been impacted by his potential role. What do you think? Are these excited? Did you know these, or is it new to you? Leave a comment below, and don't forget to be sure to hit the subscribe button and notification, as part 2 is coming along the way. Yes, that's right, there are 5 more things you did not know of J.R.R. Tolkien. I've been Johnny, thanks again. You're always welcome in my neck of the woods.